All right, we're back into another Dragon Ball Super card game video. And I know it's been a while, but we're going to be talking through some of the stuff that's happening this last weekend. If you haven't known, or if you didn't know, we're going to go through all the events, or at least some of the events, mainly the PPG one. Talk about Gotenks, obviously, as you can see from this thumbnail. And as I say we, I don't mean just you and me.
Someone said Gotenks?
Wow. I also mean Rob and Dev, who's on the line right now.
What's up?
From the team. And if you haven't subscribed, if you are new, what the hell did I just say? If you haven't subscribed, if you are new, it's been a while since I made a video. Like, dislike, join the Discord in the description below as we go into the first thing. This PPG. PPG Miami, an in-person tournament. No webcam, no nothing. We have some webcam tournaments going on this coming weekend, I do believe, but all of the events that happen, from my knowledge anyway, are all in-person events. PPG had about 60 people pre-registered. We'll take a look at that in a second. The one on the right from Frank Miller's post of the Virginia, is that Virginia, VA, right?
Yeah.
Sure? Okay. The case tournament with the tournament promos, which is a good thing to note, which had Red Broly, etc., and still had Gotenks, which we'll talk about in a little bit as well, and the 1K, which is not listed. Shout out to Miguel. If I can edit in the thing by the time he gets back to me, I will. But that was a 1K as well with a bunch of Gotenks. There you go. Okay. Do you guys know anything about what I haven't listed or haven't said about these events?
No, I think it was just the three. That's all I heard about.
Okay, for sure. All right, so for all these events, I'm pretty sure this VA tournament was won by Gotenks, right? I'm pretty sure. Am I wrong with that?
I think
so. Yes.
I think so, right?
Yeah.
Amani was playing Gotenks.
And then we have the Miami PPG event, which we'll talk about. Deval did take it with Gotenks, and it was a Gotenks mirror in the finals. So there you go. And that kind of brings the question about what about the other leaders? We'll take a look at the actual top 16 breakdown for PPG, and you'll see that pretty much all these leaders, all these leaders that we see here, they're all the new leaders were in there. Only really Gotenks, Vegex, Invoker, etc. And that kind of begs the question, why not? And I think going down the line, which you guys can talk about in your opinions and things like that too about it, with Dark Broly, I feel like it's still a really good contender. I don't think there's really accessibility issues with that. I think everything that Dark Broly needs is out and available. It's not like a TP pack for anything. And I think it's still a pretty hard deck to deal with. I think just people are on that Gotenks hype quite a lot. And I don't know if a lot of people know how to play against Dark Broly, which is probably really good for a new set release, which is another reason why I'm curious of not to see it. But I think this should be popping up in the future events as more people not only build the deck, but also figure it out. And then we have Ramp Vegeta. I already talked about in my video. He just has way too many cons for him to be really viable, and you should be playing another blue leader like Starter Vegeta, and now apparently the Reboot Goku. And then Broly, he is, I would say, stoppable to a certain extent, and I think he has bad matchups, certain bad matchups in best of threes where the chain just stops and you just can't really do too much. But with the TP Broly, I think he is a lot better. Like that one drop in itself just makes the deck a lot better. Are you gonna say something, Rob?
Yeah, I think the Red Broly, once people get their hands on the one drop for the Red Broly deck, the deck is solid. I think you need the tournament pack for the deck to be tournament competitive to try to top with it.
Yeah, essentially it's just like Broly without TP or the promo one drop is like a tier 2 deck, tier 1.5 maybe at best. With the tournament promo card, it's like tier 1, like guaranteed.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So, excuse me. The other thing about it, for those who don't know, I might put up on the screen if I can find it when I do edit the video. But you create a life, you play a ball, and your ball finds pretty much any of the 5 costs or less Broly, which helps consistency and as well as helps basically the entire deck because it's another Planet Vampa target as well. So there's a lot of things going on with that. It sucks that you do have to crit it, but I think that's really good for balancing.
It is noted that Frank Miller took second and he was playing Red Broly, and they had the TPs live in their tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it just kind of shows you the variation. So Pro Play, which we'll get to in a bit, since they didn't have the tournament packs, it was a lot more Gotenks heavy, but the Virginia one, you had other decks kind of pop up, and the Red Broly is another. It's just one of those decks that once you get accessibility to these one-drop Brolys, the deck definitely pops up in the meta. It's gonna be a deck to look out for.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And then we're looking at a baby, or basically the blue baby, with a bunch of counters. Josh's favorite deck ever, it seems. But now with the draft box release, which I haven't gone through, but you can check out Xperia's videos for the red stuff and the Mai and all of those. So that's a whole different other topic.
That's a whole other topic.
But I think he is not as good as you may think. But I think it is also something where in a best of 3 environment, I think there should be more and more testing in person, which I don't think a lot of people have accessibility to just online. And I don't know if there's a lot of stability for Baby Vegeta for a best of 3 environment. I could be wrong. I very much could be wrong. And then Vegeta and Babidi, just kind of lackluster. It's an aggro deck that can be played around. Canon. But it is.
Glass cannon decks are cool when no one expects it, but there's a lot of answers to it in the meta, and it's definitely more of a best of 1 deck.
Yeah,
the chain's cool, and even if you don't go chain, just kind of go like mono green aggro, it's still the glass cannon. It's just it's very lackluster. It's a bummer because in concept it's cool, but
yeah. I think it's one of those decks where you play against it over and over again. You kind of understand what it is, just like Reboot Gohan, just like any of the other aggro decks in the previous formats. But doesn't mean it's not bad, or doesn't mean it's not good. It just simply is something that you. I don't think it's, when you talk about tier lists, I don't think it's quite up there with the other decks that we're looking at right now.
No.
But any other thoughts for these guys?
That's pretty much it. I think once people get their hands on the TP cards, Broly's gonna be, or Red Broly's gonna be up there. It's gonna be a really good deck. Everyone's gonna be running it. I think once people start learning the deck more and actually playing the deck, I think Dark Broly is gonna see a lot more play. Other than that, I think Baby's kind of and I think people are realizing that. But they also still need some TP promo cards as well for that deck to be really good too. So a lot of TP cards that are needed for most of these decks to get good.
Yeah, I definitely think kind of what Devin and Droid said, the Broly deck will be definitely tier 1 after you get the TP. The Dark Broly, I'm kind of surprised that not a lot of people were playing it. I definitely think the deck's a sleeper. It's very aggressive. It has board control. It goes early game. It goes late game. It does a lot. That's definitely a deck that people should look out for.
Mm-hmm. Oh God, I'm dying. I'm gonna edit it out.
Oh, man.
All right. So that brings us to what happened at PPG. So if you didn't know, PPG had pretty much all the, I won't say all of them, but a lot of the top players traveling there, and as well as participating. They did have 60 pre-registered, and actually 50 of them played. And then top 16 played it out the next day. So Saturday was the event, and then top 16 was Sunday. And then who won was the Gotenks deck from Andrew Duvall, or piloted from Andrew Duvall. On the right is his deck. Does have some, I would say pretty much Gotenks with hand control, right? I don't think there's really much confusion there. I think it's consistent enough. We don't see his sideboard, but we'll take a look at all the lists here. But what do you guys think about this list?
I think it was
people
very
play
well
Gotenks.
made.
Yeah, the deck is very consistent. I've been on this since day one, and the hand control variant with what Duvall was running. Shout out, first of all, congrats for winning. The deck's, it's scary. It's really hard to answer. Yeah. It has so many options. It's hard to stop. It's just kind of steamrolls a lot of people.
Yeah, I think from watching Duvall play the deck, you could tell from watching him play and like how he teched out his deck that he knew the mirror very well. And he was expecting it, so he teched his deck out very much for mirrors, but also to like play against the rest of it as well. So it was just the deck all around was just like really well made. It was very consistent. It did what it was supposed to do, and he did really well with it over. So
yeah, I do agree. And I think that's like I've talked about this before, where especially the Vegex video that I did, where if you're gonna be playing a good deck, expect other people to be playing the good deck, and you gotta just get really good at the mirror, whether it's in the sideboard or you mainboard different things. And I think the Dark Broly Unison is probably one of those things that you have to kind of consider, and that's just my opinion. But if you are going to be playing the mirror, the Dark Broly Unison's going to do a lot for you.
That Dark Broly is one heck of a meta call for the mirror, because that card does work in the mirror, and for him to mainboard too, that's an extraordinary call.
Yeah, I remember seeing at one point in his game versus Butters in like the finals, I think he had like 12 cards or something in hand, and Butters had like 2, and I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yikes. Well, it's just a really good unison in general, and that kind of brings us to the other lists in itself. So let's go take a look at that. Okay, so the first deck here is going to be the Bulma deck by Jerry Bishop, which is nice to see. And of course, another shout out to Josh. But for this one, this is going to be a little bit different. He is playing a lot of the Gogeta line. Even the 6-drop Broly is here, which was questionable for me because I think the only thing that you can actually do to play it is actually hardcast it for 6. But I mean, he is still a critical double striker that takes away.
It is an additional target for the secret.
Yes, which he is. He is playing. Okay, he's right.
And he does play the Broly secret.
Right. And you do have to draw into the Goku and Vegeta BRs in order to play this guy. But, I mean, you kind of draw 1 to 2 cards every single turn interactively, and you also play 3 apes, so I don't think that's really going to be too much of an issue. And you just play out this guy into the secret, which helps Bulma quite a lot, actually.
Darren having 8+ counters is not okay. That is nightmare fuel.
Yeah, that's just crazy. This right here is crazy. The Sin Shenron obviously is super crazy. If you're adding counters every single turn, especially through the Gogeta or the 6-drop, like you're just gonna see their hand every single turn. But both of these guys are pretty just wild. Overall, cool deck. Sideboard is on the right over here. Not much is to it. You know, more removal, more negates.
I'm really wondering why he only ran 1 exploiting weakness inside, or like in the deck in general. Like if you're just gonna want to run, you might as well just like not, because like it's hard to see it. But like running 1 is like weird. I don't know.
He may have just only had 1. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Plus he had 3 of the Kaioken Gokus, so
yeah,
probably tech choice. Either way, moving on to the Gotenks decks. We're probably not going to talk through all of them because they're, what is it, like 10 Gotenks, I think.
Yeah, I think Rios and Duvall's decks are like pretty much like a couple cards different.
Yeah, and then of course their sideboard is probably going to be a little different. We'll take a look at that in a second. But playing the Jiro for the Rebrian and any other targets like the Master Roshi or the Zarbon is pretty sweet. For the dormant potentials, which are what, $50 each right now?
Like 75.
75 each.
No, the dormants are like 40.
Dormant's 50, yeah.
50.
The Zamasu's like 75 right now.
Ridiculous.
Ribrians went up. They're up to like 50.
Ribs went up to 50. Yeah, if you're trying to play the version like this, if you don't own the cards already, it's going to be hard getting them because they're very expensive.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's interesting to see these decks, but when it comes down to it, which we'll talk about in a little bit, it is those green generic good cards. Max Power Kamehameha is probably for the Gogeta matchup if I had to take a look, or had to take a guess, or any of the like Dark Broly, things like that. Pretty interesting. As we go into the next deck, which is under Duvall's, we already took a look at that. He's siding in the Shrouded, which is nice to see. We also had Brian Samuels, which he had a lot of tech options. Whoops. From the... Let me go... Oh, here you go. From the Bardock 6-drop, which again, probably for Dark Broly or for other targets like Gogeta. We had the Sun Gohan with the Bardock Unison as well. Interesting. Also, the big armor. Well, okay. I didn't even notice that.
Bardock's really good in the mirror too, because you can warp your opponent's Grim Reaper.
That is true. That is also true. That's pretty cool.
These 1-0s, man.
Brian Samuel loves 1-0s.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Moving on. More of the Gohan blockers from Neil. I'm guessing. Oh, he actually has the old expansion card too, as another Union Fusion target. And
that's a good option. Help search for the trunks.
Yeah,
I like the Man on a Mission. I'm not gonna lie.
The Man on a Mission tech is. I think this list looks a little bit more aggressive, especially running the Chomp on the Man on the Mission.
Yeah.
So having that, you just kind of shotgun faster.
Yeah, these guys didn't even run Chomp in the main. Didn't look like it. Actually, yeah, none of these guys run Chomp. Interesting. Yeah, Blue Impulse. That's interesting. Maybe for like Bardock and
AOD.
AOD. Yeah, AOD is a pretty good one there too. Interesting. More removal. Very specified removal.
Yeah. The Vegeta and the sideboard is interesting too. That's not bad. The 4-drop.
Yeah, I saw this from Russell's list. We'll take a look at it in a second. I'm guessing it's for certain unisons. I'm not sure which ones though.
For the mirror, it could be against like the Jaren because it does remove 3 counters. Mm-hmm. So if you go into that and then use your leader skill, or you go into the 5-drop. So for 6 energy, it's a heavy energy cost, but for 6 or 7 energy, you remove 7 counters from a unison.
Yeah,
that's gonna majority kill almost any unison in play.
Yeah, for sure. Interesting. And keep seeing this Dodoria for being something being played for 2 or less, maybe for AOD, maybe something else. Like the mirror as far as like Goku. Very possible.
Yeah.
And then moving on, a lot of the same list. Craig Meyer and I think him play the same list with Strike. It seems that Neil did not have the Celzino, so my man's played it.
Interesting.
Maybe he took it. They're on the same team, right? Pretty sure.
Yeah, card guys together.
So
interesting.
Moving on, we got MacGyver March. Okay, pretty much the same.
He ran the same list as Samuel or Brian Samuel.
This is very interesting because he is only running 2 Grim Reapers, which I think Grim Reaper is an automatic 4 of if you play Gotenks.
That's actually
the card
is really weird. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. I don't know about that. He probably tried to squeeze in too much of these hand control. Like I think he either
a little sus.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that.
That's a little questionable.
Yeah.
But there's another big armor in the sideboard. The Boo Boo Volleyball is an interesting tech as well.
Yeah, interesting. Well, moving on. Devin's list, always trying to do something different with the Nappas in the main, but mostly the same. I would say. Still has max power, Kamehameha, Deadly Defender, which we'll take a look. I think Russell's list is next. We have 2 of them in the main. That with the revenge giving from the Vegito is pretty cool on turn 3. Yeah, and then mostly the same.
Running the Android 18 is interesting. It's a good. It's more of a hand control. This deck, most Gotenks decks will definitely kind of focus, at least the side focus on hand control.
Yeah.
Because you do have cheaper options, like you have the Cell Kamehameha, you have Android 18. I think only one of the lists ran it, but you also have the Bardock Unison with the Gohan, the Gokul. You have the 18, or you can run the Vegeta super combo from last set. So the Bardock can pay off unison wise and go more of like a heavy hand control deck.
For sure. Not to mention, I feel like Fusamasu is definitely one of the winners when it comes to the mirror too. You just can't remove it. I don't think there's really anything that Gotenks can do.
Nah, unless you can't even warp. Yeah, it's
Yeah, you can't. Just I don't think there's anything that good Gotenks can do.
No.
It's just there.
you just cry and discard a card every turn.
That's a big rip. Vegeta sideboard, pretty cool. Another one from Christian, pretty much the same list over and over
Oh,
again.
so much Gotenks. Okay, anyway,
we got a Reboot Gohan from Anvil.
woo!
Shout out to him. Yeah, Reboot Gohan stuff. Nothing that we haven't
played
seen.
the green SR.
Yeah, the green SER is pretty cool because I only say that because Michael Cooper got me with that when I was playing Vegex way back when, and that sealed him the game. That makes me sad. And then some cool tech options from Power Legend to this Goku that is pretty sweet. Just
They had a potential interesting.
Yeah.
That's cute tech.
For sure. A lot of self-awakening. My man.
Yeah, he really wants to get to that backside.
Yeah. And then we got Eric Goodwin's Super Saiyan 3 reboot list. I love this list because
this is really cool.
I just like it. However, I won't say that for sure that Obuni carried him. But if he didn't have Obuni, I don't think he would play this deck. However, I will also say that these 3 cards right here are awesome.
The 6-drop Vegeta in this deck is just, I'm going to draw 4, and then I'm going to beat you with a 30k, and then I'm going to restand it.
Yeah.
It's extremely good.
Yeah, you restand this, restand 3 energy, and you get 4 cards most likely because you only play the ape that's yellow, and these guys are.
And you have the option because of the Sun Gohan, so now you have like its own topo on top of having the Trunks.
Yep.
Tournament pack, and you get the Uneasy Alliance to re-grab the Gohans, so you can constantly have that negate loop.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, a lot of cool options. Entered 18, drawing e-cards, Gohan being a little baby topo that has a 25k attacker, Vegeta being really annoying, being a 20k blocker that, yeah, you have to pay 4 in this, but it still gains you a lot of advantage, especially since you untap 3 of them in the turn, or you have that extra energy. Keeping Watch is a really good tech, because I think that's a interesting tech, especially against like AOD or something like that, where they're playing stuff on your turn. And then Trunks most likely for Dark Broly, these 2 cards, and then Haru for any of the green. Probably for Gotenks, probably, if I had to take a guess. And then
that's a pretty solid, safe guess.
Yeah. I think we only have the Invoker list. Who really needs to look at that? And then another Invoker. Who needs to look at that? And then we also have 2 Vegex, which Daehan's playing all the good Vegex stuff with the new super combo, not Bibbidi, and then Haru, which is awesome. New man on the mission as well. A lot of good stuff. I think
after hearing him on stream, he said if he were to go back and change anything, he would take out the big Vegex line, because he just never really got to use it, and he sideboarded it like every time. Yeah. I would
agree with that. Every time I play well, I won't say every time. It just doesn't feel as good. Just paying 3 for him, even if you get both of the cards, it still can't be answered, and it just feels bad if it is. So I definitely can understand that. And then we have our Vegas local, getting up to that top 16. Shout out to him. Yeah, a lot of different cards. Still playing the Fu, mission accomplished. Playing the IAR, playing a lot of stuff. You play this deck quite a lot, so I'd imagine he is quite good at it. So shout out to him. Cool. Let's hop over to the rest of the video. Okay, that brings us to what makes Gotenks so good. And I'll kind of bring it over to Rob and Dev, since I haven't really been playing it. I'd imagine it's because you draw a lot, you KO stuff, and the Vegito unison is busted. Am I right?
Yeah. So this deck is very explosive. So you obviously have your Goku. The Goku gets any of your Gotenks pieces, and then you can pay 1, discard it, go get the Goten and Trunks. So now it becomes a 2 energy, draw 3 over 2 turns, or you can do it in the same turn. The Trunks Bonds of Friendship, when you play it with Unison, you look at top 7 and grab a Union card or a Unison card. The energy costs 2, so it gets you your Vegito. If you're running the Golden Frieza, it gets Bardock. It puts it in hand, thins deck, and then you the Vegito Unison, every time you Union Fuse, you draw a card. So playing Grim Reaper of Justice, you pay 2, you get a body, you KO something, and you draw 3 cards. And it has dual attack, and it's deflect. So the dude's a monster. The Goten Trunks Faithless Youth is really good. So each of the bonds of friendship, the Trunks and the Goten, have an ability where you pay 1 green, you can discard it, and then play the opposite. So like Trunks can discard and play a Goten. Goten plays with Trunks. But the Goten and Trunks, since they're both, you play them. That's a 15k attack. You swing with it, and then as a second activate main, if your leaders are green Gotenks, you return it back to your hand. You look at top 5 to go get a Unison 2 cost or a Gotenks card. So it helps filter your deck. It gets to your pieces. It's an alternate option to Gokule. And it's free. It's a free attack that goes back into your hand. So your opponent really can't remove it unless they remove it in battle. The All-Out Assault. This is a card, and Devin can vouch for me. I have gone back and forth and back and forth and back and forth on whether it's good or not. After seeing it this weekend and kind of testing with it a little bit more, I think a lot of the list had it as like a 2 of. The card, it's Deflect Double Strike. So you EX Evolve it off a Grim Reaper for 2, or you can Union Fusion it for 3. When it comes into play, you draw a card, you KO something, ignoring barrier, and remove 2 markers from your opponent's Unison. And it's a 30k, so it just does a lot. It has a lot of removal, kind of fits in with the theme of the deck. Overall, it's just the Gotenks core is so strong, it's so consistent. It has your removal, it has pressure, you can shotgun people, you can play like a mid-range control with it. Plus the All-Out Assault also helps you go into the Fuse Zamasu because it is your 5-drop.
Nice. Which is also true. Okay. Anything, Devin?
No, he pretty much spoke about everything. He knows the deck more than me, so yeah, everything. Like the deck in itself, like it's basically just this core, and then the rest of like the deck is basically just like what you would like to add in. It's like a tech option, like in the other decks where it's like you can go the hand control variant, you can go more of an aggressive variant, you can go more towards like a stall, and play for late game type. It just depends on how you want to make the deck pretty much. But these cards are basically just what you want to start your deck with.
Gotenks is going to be the new good green generic leader. I say this because of the fact that your core is 24 to 30 cards. That gives you 20 to 30 slots to mess around with and have tech options and different pieces. So you have so many different options and ways to build this deck, and it doesn't really necessarily even have to focus around the engine, but the engine's really good because you need the green Gotenks leader.
Right. Which kind of brings us, when we're talking about generic good leader, all the other generic good cards from Dormant Potential, which, again, a little bit of a cost barrier there now. Maybe a lot of a cost barrier. And now then Frieza, which KOs pretty much everything that doesn't have barrier, or can't be KO'd as far as permanents go, and up to like the first 3 turns basically. So you're not really going to be playing anything anytime soon with that in their hand. And then Zarbon being a blocker that makes you pitch one. I kind of really talked about this in previous videos before, but it's just probably one of the best TP cards that we had in a long time. And of course, Salzeno, which is another generic good card. Not even for green, but just in general. Just a really good closer, and technically can be played any turn as long as you have the energy. So
Zarbon definitely shines in this deck because the SS3 Vegito Unison is +2, gives all your battle cards revenge. So it becomes a revenge blocker that when it's KO'd, your opponent discards a card. Right. And you pay 1, discard a card, and get it back. So if you discard like a Master Roshi or a Ribrian or anything like that, not only are you essentially advantaging in the yard, you now have a revenge blocker that is a discard for your opponent, which is huge.
I totally agree. That's just
Yeah,
wild.
Darban's also expensive as well, so just FYI.
Yep, and Selzano.
And then Selzano.
Yeah, it's like
Selzano.
2%.
Selzano is the best secret. Come at me.
It is probably
It is the best secret in the game. Yes.
Well, that before we trigger anybody, that leads us to what does Gotenks lose to, and it's not so much of this could be a completely different video than this one's already too long, but the main thing that I think Dev wanted to talk about and probably Rob wanted to talk about is the Gogeta leader and as well these other two cards. So you guys can talk about that.
So I don't think it's necessarily the Gogeta, but it was kind of showcased a little bit in Top Cut when Jerry Bishop was playing Bulma. Once you establish a 6-drop Gogeta and then the Jiren, when it has like 9 counters, Gotenks doesn't have a battle card that can attack. That's it. The Gogeta minus this 20 when it attacks, and then Jiren can knock it off another 25. So it kills Cell, it kills your Grim Reapers, it kills Fusamasu. You have your Unison and your leader, and they can just negate or block. That's about it. I'll let Devin talk a little bit more about Gogeta because that's what he's been playing.
So the thing with Gogeta, right? The line itself, like the 5-drop can't be KO'd and it has deflect. The 6-drop can't be KO'd. And so in tandem with the Jiren Unison, on play, you get a unkillable or 6-drop that adds 3 counters onto a already hard to kill Unison, and they both get double strike, which is also really bad to deal with because it's double strikers that are just probably going to either swing at your face or going to swing at your Unison every turn. So that's like a total of possible 4 damage every turn. And then from what I've been playing, I think the Gogeta leader is really good because in tandem with these two, you also get another double strike 20k that swings every turn with the leader backside. So it's just like, it's a lot to deal with when you can't kill it, and especially in a deck like Gotenks where they only have cards that just KO and they don't have anything that warps. So like you just have 3 double strikers swinging at you every turn, and you can't play battle cards because they get -10 by Jiren's auto, and then they can get -20 by Gogeta, and then they can get -25 by Jiren ignoring Barry. So like, it's just hard to get around stuff like that. And that's not even including like anything else that you play. Like you can play Frieza Death Ball. You can play the
Violent Rays. You get
Violent Rays. You can get the Wolfang Fist. Like all these different things that can go on top of this, like already like -45k, and it's just really hard to get around. So that's why I think going into like the set further, I think Gotenks is going to have a hard time against this. And it's mostly just like the Gogeta line in general with the Jiren Unison that's just going to give it a hard time throughout the rest of the set.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the Gogeta leader, like I said. It's more the 6-drop and the Jiren, and obviously that can be played in multiple red decks, like Jerry Bishop playing it in Bulma. You get it. On top of that, that should become super defensive. So on top of having to deal with blockers, you don't get a battle card attack because it just immediately dies on arrival.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the Gogeta leader is gonna need a good pilot to play it for it to be utilized very well. But overall, I think it's okay.
Yeah, for sure. And I think if anything, one thing I will, as we go into the last thing, and let us know below in the comments below, one thing to always realize is that for every format doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to be the format forever. This is just the most recent results from a few recent events, which aren't completely huge, but does have some really good players. And that also means that not everything has been explored and not everything has been basically tested. So I would say
Yeah.
probably about a couple weeks from now, it's going to change. So I won't say get used to a lot of Gotenks. I would say this is just the beginning.
For as amount sorry to cut you off on that.
You're good.
As big as the players were at PPG, the pool size was only 50 players. So yes, there was Gotenks all over the place, but if it would have been a normal year with a normal regional, you're looking at anywhere from like 100 to 150 people. So the sample size is going to be a lot harder to try to gauge on what's going to be good, kind of like what Drake was saying on your meta. The meta is going to shift, and it's the first week. So
yeah, I think the reason why most of these people played Gotenks here, and I'm not sure they can comment or not about it, but I think it was mostly just because of like, yes, the deck was really good. It's very good against most of the field, but I also think it was just like it was a really easily accessible deck. And when I say easily accessible, I mean like they already like most of these people already had these cards, and they just needed a couple of the set 11 cards, and then it was easy to just throw it together and play it. Because like most of the decks were just like anniversary box cards, set 10 cards, DB or draft box 5 cards, and then they just needed to add in like a couple of the set 11 cards that are like obviously the leader, but like the Vegito Unison, and obviously some people got the Dark Broly Unison. But other than that, those were like the cards that they needed, and then once they got those, they can just throw the deck together and then play it. And it was a really good call to play. So
do you agree? Well, let us know in the comments below if that is all. We will see you guys in the next one. Say bye, guys.
bye.
Later.